me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness, I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness, what's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Trees. I'm taking on three of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, and did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yep.
Saturday. Woo!
I like that that's the plan, that you'll just sing it. You'll just sing the one bar, and then we'll go.
And then we would need the drop with Renee.
We got to figure it out. I wonder, is there a way do you have to pay for access to something? Is that how that works? I don't know how any of this
We
stuff
can't
works.
afford Tommy Boy records.
Even just for like a piece of a.
I doubt it.
Interesting. Okay.
I doubt it. I don't want no drama. Rest in peace, Dave. Big shout out to De La Soul.
For real.
And was that Vinny and Monica singing on that? What was this? I can't remember.
I don't remember her name.
I used to know. I should know. It's a shame. Somebody in the chat will know. What's up, chat? Welcome, everybody.
Good morning. Thank you for coming.
Black Power Media, Renee, Jared in the building. Please like, share, subscribe, join the platform, put this in your socials, let folks know.
Did you notice that you all crossed over the 33,000 mark?
I did notice that. In fact, yesterday, right? We have crossed 33,000 on our way to 100 so that we can all get this plaque that we will rotate. We'll send around to everybody when we get the 100,000 plaque. I think we'll have to just like let everybody, like when they do like the Super Bowl trophies or whatever. Actually, I don't know how that works.
Gets it for a little bit.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that works.
You take a picture of it and everybody can have a rotating background.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it is.
Because somebody asked me like, "What's that behind you?" I was like, "That's my house, man." That's literally a corner in my house.
So what's that? 67,000 more. That's all we need.
But you know what? If you think about it, it was not very long ago that you all were trying to hit 30,000, and you went from 30. Because I remember when that note went out, like we're almost at 30,000. That was not very long ago. So
no, and it's been. Look, when I look at other platforms and the more I've paid attention to how this all works, we're up against every odd. So everything from having a platform with this many shows, that doesn't help with the algorithm. Having the politics that these shows have doesn't help with the algorithm. What else? There's so many things that we're doing that algorithmically don't work. So the fact that we do have 33,000 subscribers and have taken what was, again, a largely unused channel of mine from 5,000. I think I had 5,000 subscribers and I was barely using the platform.
Okay.
So in a couple years to get that many. So
yeah, it's a big.
So yeah,
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and if you're not doing the reactionary thing, it's even harder.
Yeah, I mean, and again, there's a lot of reasons why why I've always struggled with what our expectations should be, and why. But again, I come from, and it was just an anniversary. Shout out to Radio CPR and the whole pirate radio movement. But that's where I started. It was that in mixtapes. So like I've never had a problem. I would rather do what I want to do to a smaller group than try to make all these amendments that have to be made to get a broader audience. So I've always been good with that. And I mean, we don't even know how many people were or were not listening when we were doing that radio CPR project out of Northwest DC. And it was dope the way they had it. Talk about religion like we did the other day, but they had run the antenna up behind the cross of a church that was working out of solidarity with the station. The station was like hidden away in the attic of a church. So you would have to go into this church, and like sometimes they would be having some sort of service or like community meetings, and you just sort of quietly walk in, go upstairs, and go broadcast. And I mean, it couldn't have been that many people because it was these were the days of you're still worried about the FCC with the rolling,
the whole thing,
whatever to capture the, it was all of that. So I mean, I was good with that and handing out a couple hundred mixtapes here or there. So anyway, I say all that to say I appreciate the crew we got, and but why not keep going?
Look, I always know something's doing the right thing when my mother says I'm going to give money to that. So she signed on as a Patreon, and
that's the thing.
She was like, I signed on, and then she hit me the other day, and she was like, I think I'm going to up it because the stuff is so good on there.
Wow. Well, thanks.
Once my mother says I'm signing on, then we're good. We're good.
Or is I don't mean to be all in your business, but is Johnston the maiden name? Is that your mother?
No, Johnston is the married name.
Okay, so
the maiden name is Service.
Service? Are you serious?
That's serious.
So Mama Service?
Yeah, Mama Service.
So we got Minister Server and Mama Service in the BPM community. That is dope.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to the Service family. That's deep.
There's
what's
a
the
lot
history
of
that
too.
name?
Let me tell you something. My father's side of the family. So both my parents are Jamaican. So all right, the chat's about to get like a whole brief history. Both my parents are Jamaican. We just started this whole process trying to backtrack my mother's lineage because there's like so much in there, and we think that somewhere back in her line is actually like the Maroons. So we're trying to track all of that stuff down. But my great grandfather was like, I think one of three great grandfathers, somewhere back there. And between the three of them, they had like 50 kids. And so there is a whole truckload of services out there. In fact, when I moved to Maryland, there was like an issue with my cable, and it was because there was another Renee Service who lived in Prince George's County. And I was like, yeah, wild.
Stop playing.
So yeah, man, it was the wild. I was like, but I don't have. And he was like, yeah. And I think her middle initial was like M, and I was like, that's not me. And it was wild. So
yeah, no, nobody was believing that.
Yeah, and it's an odd surname, but there's a lot of us.
Well, there's a lot of service that the empire was requiring. That's
exactly.
I don't know,
Exactly.
Speaking of Jamaica, real quick, if I could, let me shout out Nathan Connolly and Minka Makalani and Keto Swan and the whole crew of folks who gathered yesterday at this event related to Johns Hopkins University, the Africana Center there, and they hosted. It was a day-long symposium on Stuart Hall. And it was wild because Stuart Hall, who's mostly known as a Jamaican-born, a brown-skinned Jamaican-born British immigrant who becomes a giant in cultural studies and some Marxist circles, And for me, a little bit in media studies, where I was introduced to his work in grad school and primarily followed his work through the work of Sut Jali. So, but he's not known to be an Africana studies centerpiece for a variety of reasons. And this was one of the things that was on discussion yesterday. And it was fascinating. So even in space, and I was even telling my daughters this again, I just reiterated, I don't even care if it's always a revolutionary space, but I have to have you be intellectuals. I have to have you be thinking people. I have to have you be in spaces where it's, again, even if it doesn't happen to be most revolutionary, I just need at a minimum for there to be. So it was great to be in a room and just sit quietly and listen to people. And the way they had it set up, they would have these like keynote presentations, and then they had two discussants who were there, like expert discussants who would respond to the keynote, and then the rest of us were in the crowd to have a discussion. And it was so dope until your boy, who shows up with, I leave the house, I show up, my tire's flat. So I get to the spot and I figure, cool, I'll call roadside service, and it'll take forever, but I'll be in the spot and I'm here all day anyway. So this is, if it had to happen, okay. Long story short, the two times I raised a question are the exact moments where roadside service called me back to tell me to come outside. So the first time, I'm waiting there hours, by the way, getting these updates. We're on our way. We're on our way. We're on our way. No, we're not. We're not. Oh, we messed up. We got to get a new person because the other person, we don't know what happened to them. Blah, blah. All this text messages all day, all day. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just listening. So it's cool. And then as soon as I raised a question, it was the wildest thing. So I raised a question, and then as he's answering me, my phone is so I'm sitting there, and as soon as he finishes answering the first question, I'm just up and running outside. So it looks crazy.
Right.
Then I come back, hours go by, and again, the exact moment that I ask a question, it was unbelievable. The phone starts ringing, and I literally answered it while the dude, and I'm like, I'll be right outside, while the dude is answering my question in this group. And I'm just sitting there like, so after all of it gets taken care of, I come, we at the moment the thing is over, they're at the little reception. I go up to each of the faculty members, and I told them, I was like, because they don't know me. I was like, these are two people I've never met. So I was like, look, I just want to apologize.
My bad.
Longer story short, they recognized what, like one dude was like happy that I'd said something because he was he was funny with it, but it was clear, it was a little bit like I did notice, like it looks crazy when you raise a question and you're barely letting them finish and you're running out the door. And I was like, I know, it's terrible. So, but anyway, shout out to all of them. It was dope.
Now, isn't that where Zofia is that I emailed to try and connect you?
What? You did. And I should have reached out because I
wish
it
had occurred to me that that's where you were, because I would have reminded you. And just now when you said it, I was like, shoot,
because we had a time to meet.
And it was when all this stuff happened. Yeah.
And they shut down campus. The day we were going to meet, they had shut down campus after the homecoming shooting.
Yeah.
So I have to go back and I got to okay. But no, yeah. It was, but it was a fun day.
I'd like to also state for the record that if you change your own tires, things like that don't happen.
Oh yeah, but those days are over. Oh, let's be clear. Those days are over. In fact, the last time, this is deep, the last time I changed a tire on my own was in the rain and for someone else who no longer wants to talk to me. And for a week or so after that, I was just broken up. Like I physically.
Oh, that's right. You're back.
I
did forget.
In addition to some other things, like I gotta, that's why I have to adjust my interaction with the world because I'm not who I used to be. So I gotta be, but But yeah, shots fired, no
They
question.
are. You know
Because
why?
I still remember.
You want to know
I
the
still
last time I
remember.
changed my own tire?
What happened? Yeah,
It was
when?
like 2 weeks ago.
Shout out to you. Shout out to you.
I got home. I was like, I just changed
Shout
my
out to you.
driveway.
And I got a truck now too. Like it's a bigger
Oh, that's a
vehicle
lot.
too.
Yeah,
Like I'm not. I was
Oh
like,
my
I'm
God.
not even. And I was in my, I'm in my little, I'm in my little slacks. And it was raining and whatnot. I'm in my bougie Johns Hopkins moment. I'm trying to be at a conference. I'm not out here changing tires and then ending up in the hospital missing Saturdays with Renee or doing it from the emergency room. I got my
we can't be doing that. Can't be doing that.
My ego has not been, I used to, you got to check your ego when I got to be able to check my ego. And my ego was like, call somebody, man. Call somebody, man. You pay for the insurance, like call somebody.
That is so true. You pay for it, you might as well.
And he got a fat tip too on top of that.
Yeah.
Like I
just couldn't. In the moment that it was happening, I was supposed to be going to a funeral. I was like, let me just see if I can change it real fast. And it was a disaster, man. A disaster. But I did get the tire changed at least. So,
I mean, salute to you though. Oh yeah, no, there's no shame. There's no shame. My ego was done. My ego was done. Back pain and shoulder pain and XYZ. Like my ego is. I'm fully a humbled human being. I mean, those days are over. Like it's a wrap. I mean, So, all right. But
Monty,
listen, speaking of
I would have put you to work. You think you wouldn't have been helping? You would have been helping. Me and Monty went to lunch. It was nice. We met up last week.
Word. She said she would have been no help. At least going in. No, I'll hold a flashlight. You know what I mean? If I could be of some help like that, I'll hold an umbrella. You know what I mean? I don't like to just hover over somebody doing work, but if I'm not chipping in, but. No, I was like, no. Let me call somebody. I'm going back inside, and but tip. That's
definitely the better way to go. And if you tipping, that's helpful. That's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, it is somebody does have a job, and let me help circulate. That's what Mark said. Capital needs circulation. Circulate the black dollar. It was a brother. He was a brother that showed up. Said circulate. There it is. We about to be the revolution's around the corner. All right. So speaking of which, because I do, we do got to be out of here. And I need my 10 minutes of stretch time before warrior class starts. So at 1:00, we want to make sure that we stay in the good graces of the crew over there.
Always.
Yeah, can't have any drama. And you have, of course.
There's a lot, but we're not going to get to all of it. There's no way we'll get to all of it. But
Renee does preparation. There's no question about it.
I like for the idea that we won't run out of stuff. I figure if there's too much there, we'll get through what we get through, but we won't run out. That's my thought. That's my theory.
Well, the other thing, though, we don't have, other than a rough start time, we don't have any real rules, in an end time, I should say. Like, we don't have to fill up. Like, it's not like we have a 2-hour window that has to be content filled. So there's no stress. There's no pressure.
Well, good. So what should we start with? Should we laugh at Eric Adams first? Should we?
I mean, I'm always happy to do that. The hip hop mayor.
So there's two.
See. So I was going to say you had two that referenced this, right?
The one that's just him, not the hip hop mayor one, because that's a doozy.
All right, hold on a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
On his way out of some event, he got rolled on, and they took all his devices.
Look at how the algorithm works, though. Can we just stop and do a quick media studies? Look at that. Because you know what I had to do, right? You know what happened yesterday, right?
Yeah, you had to go buy a new tire.
Wow. That's deep. Google is a monster. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, so they rolled up on him and took his phones. It's all part of the investigation.
And they couldn't do that whole, I thought you're supposed to get those courtesies when you're the mayor. Aren't you supposed to get some, come on down at your convenience. We're not going to do the perp walk and the embarrassing. But they were.
And it was like outside of some public event too. So they clearly were trying to like catch him out there and make sure that he don't.
Yeah, they approached the mayor after an event and took the devices, according to a statement from Adams' attorney, who added the mayor immediately complied with the request. I mean, duh, he still remembers he's a black man. What, you going to not comply and get gunned up? With the itchy trigger fingers that were standing around. So the incident was first reported Friday. Described a striking scene. FBI officials intercepted the mayor on the street and asked his security detail to step aside while the feds climbed into Adams' city-issued vehicle and seized at least 2 cell phones and an iPad. The investigators kept the devices for several days. Copies of personal electronic devices are often made by investigators before returning them. Yikes. Neither Adams nor his staff have been accused of wrongdoing, but the seizure of his electronic devices comes on the heels of a November 2nd FBI raid at the home of his campaign treasurer, 25-year-old Brianna Suggs. Wow.
Yep. So, I mean, who knows what's going to start coming out of all of this stuff, but I have a theory about Black faces in high places, which is they get this idea that like their proximity to whiteness and power is of such that they can just do what other people do. And they forget that they Black. And if you're Black, you can't do what other people do. That's not going to work. And so he is, and I am no fan of Eric Adams by any means, but I do not like the system on the whole, and therefore watching as this unfolds, but I mean, he gonna get what he get because he a cop anyway, so what else. But
has KRS been asked about this? I'm so tempted to tune into his Temple of Hip Hop series just to see if any of this ever comes up, but I'm not that dedicated to it. But if anybody ever hears of KRS being asked or responding or following up, trying to justify, or I'd just be very curious. It's
what does annoy me is this and this is part of the conversation that's happened. Like somebody joked about it in the chat, and they're joking, but there are really people who are like, "Oh, they're only doing this because he's Black," and and they're missing. They're missing that he took advantage of his Blackness to, completely disregard the Black community because he thought his proximity to whiteness was the thing that was going to allow him to do whatever he wanted to do. And now he's finding out the hard way that that's not how it works here, right? And so Black people who, in their pursuit of power or in their desire to pretend that they're better than, who are reminded. I have no sympathy for it at all, like zero sympathy for it.
So for a while, he's probably still doing it, but I haven't seen him. What was the dude's name? The bald white Texan, I think, who worked for Colin Powell when Powell was still in the military, or no, when he was the Secretary of State, right? He was Secretary of State when he made the defense for Iraq's invasion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Lawrence Wilkerson, is that his name?
No, I'm not going to.
The reason I just thought of him as you were talking about this Black proximity is because whenever that comes up, I always have this memory of being in the Navy and being literally on the floor scrubbing or doing some manual labor with this next to this brother as Colin Powell is walking by with his white lieutenant and his white, all these white officers, and one of them was literally carrying his briefcase, and that was a shocking image. But I always remember the brother said to me something like, "Oh man, look." He was like, right on, like look at that brother got the got the crackers walking with it, whatever he was saying, something like that. And I just remember saying, but I was like, we still right here.
Right.
Like, I'm next to you right here doing whatever nasty, grubby, dirty work that was probably unnecessary and just made us stay busy so we don't think too much.
Right.
And I was just always like, but Wilkerson would come back years later in the debate around Colin Powell.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Wilkerson said something like, he was saying as part of a debate he was having was someone he was saying was some left liberal. He said something like, you just don't know what it's like to be around that level of power. So it's easy for you to be critical and say what you would this and would that, but you don't know what power does to, and it was to justify Powell's decisions and lies or whatever the hell else. But in the context that you're raising it, you're right. Power, I could see power convincing, man,
it's
my
wild.
blackness won't stop this.
Right.
They're doing it.
Right.
I'm here now.
And it's the same, like we had this conversation the last time about like people who decide to run for office and people who decide to join the police because they're going to do something from the inside, and they get there, nobody knows what the hell happened to this plan that you had to like upend the system. You just got sucked in, and I don't have an answer for it. I really don't. I don't have an answer for it.
There's this little contingent out here still trying to get me to run for the Congress seat, for Sarbanes' Congress seat.
I mean, I would support it. I would support it only because watching you do that
to crash and burn. I do admit, I admit, I am curious to see what it would what it would be like to get to that first interview or that first. But I already don't have permission, so it's not going to happen. But the point is, it's. And it would, I am curious. I want to see what the offer is.
Yeah.
Like when they walk into the room, like how does it work? Like, is it that overt? Is it like in the movies where they're like,
it might, but I do have a small theory that sometimes if you can get something that's going to be beneficial only to your constituents, right? So let's say you're looking for this thing to happen that's going to actually help the voters in your community. Mm-hmm. Now, in order to get that thing for your actual community, you have to give in on this thing that looks bad to the wider population, but in return, the people that you're actually working for get something that they need. Mm-hmm. So I could see that happening, right? And I mean, technically, right, you should be doing what you need to do in order for the people who actually voted for you to get the thing that they need. Right. So, but it's, I ain't in there, so I can't say for sure. But that's the only thing that in my mind, I wonder if that could be part of what's happening, right? Like, you're not going to get nothing for your people if you don't go along with this thing. Like, you won't get nothing. So.
That's an interesting question. Quaker Anarchist is asking about a reflection of the Marilyn Mosby downfall. If they serve power, why does power take them down? I mean, I don't know enough about the Mosby situation, but I could easily see. I mean, when they're done with you, they're done. And I mean, right. and to Renee's point, as I understand it, if you are doing all the shady stuff, because what's her name, the former mayor of Baltimore, what's her name? I think she's about to come back and do another run where she did the shady book. I can't even remember all the little scandals, but the shady book deal or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you're doing everything that other people are doing, it's like it's kind of like with our terms of service. We've all already broken all of our computer and telephone terms of agreements and all. Like we've already done all of that. So whenever anybody really wants to do something, they could just peel back that layer of, well, you've already done it, we're now just going to punish you. So it's kind of like that. Like, so if you come in there and you're like, they're doing this out there, and you start being shady like everybody else, as soon as your usefulness is done, or as soon as you decide to actually do something that is a challenge to power, right? Then they're like, oh yeah, Yeah.
And that's the part that we'll never know, right? Like, I don't live down there. I'm not, going to say that she was going to do anything super useful, but on the off chance that she did anything that indicated that she was about to become a problem.
Well, that was the debate. I was actually, there was a brief attempt made here. We were gonna host a version of a debate. We're trying to because my people at Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle were arguing that there was value to Mosby in the way that you're talking, and there were others around here that firmly disagreed. Right. I honestly, despite my biases in favor of Davon and the crew, I don't know. So right. I and would still be interested in that argument, but although at this point I think 2020, I mean at this point it's probably moot, but another version of it'll come up again anyway. I mean, and ultimately that was the debate that Dr. Carr and I had. That
right. Which was very interesting. I went back and watched that the other day. That was
part of his argument, right? He got real minuscule, like we can get this specific thing for this specific Black community in this specific location, and that's why we should support this administration and their appointees. And I keep asking, well, so okay, what then do we have to give up, though? And even for bigger issues, like for women's rights or the right to choose, or even the right for gay marriage, what do we have to give up to get those things? Right. And if we have to keep giving up support for Israel, or a lack of health care, or more war, or no distribution of resources, or no, it's like, I mean, I hear you. It's not personal, but it's like at some point we got to move off of these. Anyway. So I don't know. I think I went all over the place with that.
No, but it does. It really is. It's such a. It's.
Now that would be funny. That would be fun. My bad. I'm sorry about that.
No, that would be hysterical, though.
My wife is just her profession and her personality just doesn't. She's not for all of that. Like she's not. She wouldn't work for a reality. Literally, she couldn't do it. But she just wouldn't. She wouldn't give what people want to get. Like, I would be out here giving everybody everything. They would just be like, yeah, Jared is perfect for reality TV. But, Yeah,
I don't know.
But that is funny, though.
So while we're on the mayor, we can go to the hip hop mayor and Kathy Hochul, which, I mean, this sent me, when I tell you, I've been down some rabbit holes, and Ricky Ryan, she sent me down that rabbit hole. I just came up out of that last night.
No, when any rabbit hole, any of us go down, when we get to the bottom, Ricky's already there. Like, what took you so long? like where you been?
So I see this headline. That they're gonna historic investments, and it's almost $1 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? When you get to over $750 million of $1 billion, and it's all criminal justice. Every bit of it is criminal justice and public safety. And so it's so exhausting, man. Even just gun violence. But,
this was my favorite, though. They call it SNUG, the Street Outreach Program.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means, but it's getting $25 million.
Right.
So I don't know what these street outreach programs look like.
I mean, if it's anything like the thing they did in Brooklyn, where they had like these 5 days or whatever, and it was supposed to be this community run thing, and then it turned out it was all ex-cops standing next to people who were actually working in the community, like, faking the funk. As So they're changing the bail laws because, they finally got cash bail, like, to be off the docket for judges. Now they're going to re-implement. They got all this money going into facilities, like all of this stuff. So then I started being, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, so I started looking again and I was like, wait, why? There's all this money going into these facilities. What's going on? So then I started searching up these facilities because, I had one on my spreadsheet. There's like 4 of them in New York in different parts of the state.
But did you see this line, though? In all your dive, you saw what the mayor said, right? Let's be fair, because he did say it's going to make the streets safer. It's going to make New Yorkers safer, Renee. Just want to be, don't want to hate too much on the safe streets that everybody up there is about to enjoy.
I can't. So the other links that are on that line are all facilities that are either just built or in progress. And none of them are the one that's on my initial Cop City spreadsheet, because that was the one that I found first. Actually, no, Lies and Deceit. That's the one I found first.
Yonkers.
That they broke. Yes.
A new police and fire training center. Oh, so this is just, I mean, again, we got to appreciate the beauty of Empire here.
Right.
And I got to shout out again the folks that had me watch the Andor. Did you watch Andor? Do you watch that stuff?
I watched, yeah. We watched.
I'm late to the party. Andor is dope. The whole creeping, the one point for today that I want to mention in light of this story is the creeping, slow motion evolution of Empire over an ever increasing expanse of space and time, I guess. And they were like, yo, if they want to have a rebellion after we kill another brother in the street, let's do it up.
Let's get prepared for it.
And look at us. We're about to get the Herkimer College unveils new law enforcement training center, because that's what they needed at Herkimer College.
Right.
At Herkimer County Community College.
Yep.
That's what they needed.
That's what they needed, a VR training center. This. Right.
A virtual school shooter training scenario.
Right.
Nice. Oh, look at that. I mean, nothing like this is when you see the pale whites with the red faces and the khakis and the military boots, it's a wrap, because he can't wait.
Oh yeah, it is Herkimer. Yeah.
Oh, Herkimer. Sorry, everybody. My bad.
Depending on where you are, everybody sounds different when they say stuff. It is Herkimer.
my bad. My bad. But that's
Since Monty called it out.
You know what that means? It means that's just because I don't.
You just don't read, beloved.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. But so you also have this other spreadsheet here.
No, that's no, that's
no, not that one.
That's a new line. The other go over. Oh. There's a school in Cazenovia College. They're opening something else.
Oh, right.
And then
this is dope. Look at this. Feel safer already.
Already.
A New York State Police Basic School Auxiliary Academy. I feel like ear doctor all of a sudden. Auxiliary.
Because they have to grow the police academy.
66 million. Dang.
And then there's one more in Niagara, and that's the link right on. So what sent me down all, because I was trying to understand where all this money was going for, all these facilities. And then I figured it out. That's what they're going. They're going. They're going to build all these different places all over the state.
Look at the smiles.
The excitement. Yay.
So happy.
So happy.
And it does, I think it appropriately looks like a grave. Like a grave mound.
The best is, I'm like, did they put that in the parking lot? Why are they shoveling dirt?
Yeah.
Like on top of the parking spot?
It's just ceremonial. It's just ceremonial.
When it comes to your health.
Oh, right, of course. We got to get the whole commercial. 15,000 square foot.
Oh,
this is just pennies, though. They only got a few million.
But this is another school.
Look at all the tire ads.
That really is crazy. So since we're on this Cop City thing, if you down at the bottom where I think it's Michigan, it's a private training facility. So the link to this is actually, I found an article on this and it's on my Cop City spreadsheet. And I was just curious to try and figure out, like, did they ever actually, because it was one of the ones that I had a question mark on. So I went back to check and found out that, they built it, but it's just private now. So it's a 102-acre facility in Michigan. That's for military police training. They've got all they're trying to expand. Look at look at the stuff that so
Repel and fry. Well, I don't know what that acronym stands for. Fire rescue something emergency services. The French fries tower. K9 breaching an explosive range. Wow. Relief ponds. I don't know. What does that mean?
I don't know, but I just looked at this thing and I was like, why? Like, why do you need this?
But look at this. International. So is this going to be like another School of Americas?
I don't know, but it's not going to be. It's there.
I mean,
it exists already. And I was, in my constant searching for stuff, realizing that, I'm going to have to go deeper than just looking at what the state is doing, because that's a private facility. That is not a publicly owned, publicly run.
But did it get public funding?
That's what I've added to my.
So are we publicly financing?
Funding is what I added
private,
to my.
Okay.
Right.
Because this, like, we're funding private police in the way that we fund privately owned stadiums and for football teams and whatnot.
Right.
Because they promise to bring employment and local revenue.
Yeah.
Golly.
I know. It's in Michigan. It's in what's the name of the town again? Jefferson Township in Michigan is where that is. So I mean, I'm just not even, I feel like we're entering a time where we are literally just going to be underarmed agents of the state, like walking through the streets, telling people you can't go there, you can't go here. And it's just, when I realized how extensive that Cop City list was, I don't know how to properly get people to be as outraged as I am by the path that we're on right now. And I think people just don't, people are so busy asking the wrong questions. You know, I said it before, like whenever you start talking about abolition and policing, the first thing people ask you about is, well, what are you going to do about the crime? But I don't know what community level crime is being solved with 100-yard shooting ranges and, you know, all these things being put in place that really are just to keep people in check.
But the point, I think that question in response to a critique around cops and cop cities and all of this is itself fraudulent. The question isn't then what do you want to do about crime? The question is, one of the questions, a better question is, what are they intending to do about crime with all of this investment in training and in policing? Because
right.
the point because they're clearly not looking to reduce crime.
No.
That's not what the funding is for. They're looking they're looking to be on hand to catch, quote unquote, to catch more criminals. So they know the crime isn't going to reduce. They know that this is not about crime reduction. This is about or prevention. It's about punishment.
Right.
So because because they're not going to say, we want you to increase investment in what will prevent crime. Otherwise, we're not going to get future funding. If crime is prevented, we're not, I mean, it's they want crime, or they want what they can define as crime, or they want the conditions that will produce, quote unquote, criminal activity. So I think a better question is always, well, if quote unquote crime is mostly about inequality, then the question should be reducing inequality. If we reduce inequality, we reduce what is often considered crime.
Craig's argument is people don't have time to worry about this. They have to survive. I don't know how much longer people think they're going to survive living in a police state. Survival is not to say like people don't have time for this. You know, they're trying to survive. The reason people can't survive is in part because we live in a police state, and because the function of the police and the system is to continue to have people struggle to survive in order to increase crime, so that you can punish people for doing the things they need to do to survive, so that you can increase your prison population. Like, it all works in tandem. It's intentional for things to be this way. And so to me, the argument of, you know, you need to be able to answer the question, you know, are they going to roll their eyes and all this stuff? Like, the answer to the question is, you already aren't surviving. Like, if you're oh, gotcha, Craig, sorry. You know, but in the end, like, the answer, the issue is still the same problem, which is people are failing to see the connection of their struggle to survive with the state of the system. Like, it's because of the system and the state that you are not surviving. So there has to be, you know, part of the reason that when I do my spreadsheet every week, like, part of the thing that I'm always thinking about is like, what information can we bring on a Saturday that's going to get people to think more broadly about their individual struggle, to understand that their individual struggle is not an individual struggle, right? They are not struggling alone. They are struggling in a wider community that's also struggling. They're struggling in a community that's part of a county that's also struggling, a county that's part of a state where the majority of people are struggling, that's part of a country where the majority of people are struggling. And it's all set up that way intentionally so that the state can survive. So, you know, that's what, I don't know. There's a lot, and it's a lot to ask people to think about sometimes, I realize, but somebody's got to get people to start thinking about it, or we're never going to get out of it. Like, we're never going to be able to fight the police state if everybody doesn't start to understand that the police state is the reason that we are in this struggle to begin with.
And I know there's levels to this, but I'm also thinking initially at the level of someone who is already at a point of commenting on this. So I'm not talking about we're walking up on a group of people who aren't at all thinking about this and then saying, what do you think about this? And this is a new way to think about it. I'm thinking of it as when somebody is saying, I heard on the news they're going to build this training center, and I think that's a good idea. That's the moment I'm thinking of, I'm at least thinking, maybe this is too limited, of where your intervention would be of value. Because at that point, you can say, oh, no. I watched Renee, so I know that this isn't going to help, and they're doing this. And then what's the international component for? How is training international police agencies how to deal with their people going to help you? In East and West Baltimore. So that's the point of the intervention I'm thinking. Or when the student shows up in my class and says, I saw on the news, or I heard this, or I'm wondering, that's when I'm thinking, okay, no, now we have some information and we see but yeah, because at a certain point, and I don't know Craig's entire argument here, but at a certain point I get it. A lot of people.
He said it wasn't actually disagreement. He was just pointing out how hard it is to get regular people, people who are struggling on the day-to-day to really stop and understand like where their struggle is truly coming from. And he's right. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who, not that they weren't dismissive of Palestine, but they couldn't quite understand why it was such a focus. And I said this because everybody's got the same problem. So if you go down the route of saying like, well, we're struggling here, why do we need to worry about the struggle in Palestine? You're misunderstanding that the reason we're struggling here is the same reason that the Palestinians are struggling in Palestine, is because of the same empire, the same imperialism, the same supremacy, the same desire to steal land and to remove bodies and to act like indigenous people don't have a right to live where they've always lived. So,
and the same training.
Exactly. And it's the same training. I said, don't forget that those same police out in Israel, they train the police who come back here and kill people. Right. And now all these reports are coming out about how they were shooting indiscriminate, like they were just shooting people, dropping bombs, doing whatever, and then turning around and saying Hamas did it without even given any clue that they were part of the problem. So now this whole, you have all these people talking about, this atrocity that happened on October 7th. And not that loss of life is never, it's always a sad thing to see a loss of life. I don't ever in any circumstance celebrate loss of life. That's just my own personal thing.
But
however, we cannot pretend as if the loss of life can be, pointed directly to one thing and ignore the 75 years that brought those people, it's just.
So I got a neighbor that I feel like internally I think of as I suspect most Israelis think of Palestinians. Like I got a neighbor that when I see this dude, I think this dude is crazy. I think this dude is less than human. My interaction with him has never been positive. I'm just like, this dude is a problem. Every time I see him, I'm like, it might be on, right? Mm-hmm. So you know what I'm not going to do, Renee? But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to just go bust down his door, shoot up his house, burn his house to the ground, push him on the other side of the street, rebuild the house, move into the house, build up a fence around where he's now at, control his access to water, electricity, air, food, medicine, come back again just on GP, and as they say, mow the lawn and just wipe out whatever children he might have popped back up after that. Right. I'm not going to do all of that because I don't, you know why? Because I don't want him putting together makeshift flying machines and flying over. I don't want him shooting rockets, as they keep saying, into my neighborhood. I don't want him, whatever they're saying Hamas and the Palestinians are doing, I don't want this guy to do to me either. So I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to stay over here. I'm staying over here.
But the thing that the conversation that they rarely, and I think only a few people are even catching it, is Hamas didn't do the totality of that damage. And that's the part of it that people are just now starting to comprehend, but is never going to be part of the mainstream conversation, that IDF was just shooting up places. You know, they talked about how many people were killed at that concert. And it's just now people are finding out that Israeli soldiers were shooting at people running out of the concert. Right. So, you know, these are parts of these conversations that I think people misunderstanding that it's all part of the same problem. So if you're looking at what's happening in Palestine and Israel and you're putting it off on like a religious war, which it's not, right? If you're putting it off on terrorism, which it's not, if you're forgetting that the major problem is imperialism and greed and the empire, then the very thing that's killing thousands of people in Palestine right now, it's the same thing that's killing thousands of people here, right? It's just a different group of people, but it's all death by imperialism, every bit of it.
No, I mean, it's a poorly formed metaphor, but the point, the only thing I'm just getting at is that whatever people are claiming the Palestinians have done, you don't have to worry about it if you stop messing with them.
Right. If you're not trying to because I'm not interested. They don't have to fight for their land.
And I'm honestly not interested in even the baseline condemnation of all violence, and we want everybody to have. I'm not interested in any judgment of what anyone has to about what Palestine or any Palestinian is doing in response. I'm not interested in. I admit I'm kind of fed up with any of it. Stop.
Which is why you'll note I didn't say no.
Oh, I'm not talking about you. I'm not. No. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in general.
Want to make sure anybody who watches it knows, like, sometimes, like when you're put in a position where you have to fight for your life, I don't know how people expect you to respond, right? You're trying to survive. So,
because I've spoken with Palestinians and other Muslims and Arabs and others who are really like, I don't want to be at war. Like, I don't want to kill Jews. I don't want to kill Israelis. I don't want to do like they're like, I'm not, this is not my mission in life. I'm not interested in that. And they're like, and they're even in a few spaces I've seen, like, they're like, those of us in our community that are ready for that, like, I can't even argue with them anymore. Like, I don't have an argument anymore.
Right.
So I want to tell my other elements in my community, I don't want this to happen. And I don't want to be, I don't want you to do this or that, or I don't want us to do this or that. But what's the argument at this point? I'm losing arguments here. Right. And then anything we do, and then we say, okay, fine, we'll leave Gaza. And then you bomb us and shoot us as we're leaving.
So this is actually a good segue, because I'm going to bring WBAI back on a Saturday. So there's a line about the West Bank on our chart. And this was every Tuesday now on WBAI, they have someone who has a conversation about what's happening in Palestine. And so this group, this international crisis group, which I had never heard of until I heard one of the researchers talking on the interview. But one of the topics was how violent the West Bank has gotten for Palestinians, and how little conversation people are having about how violent the West Bank has gotten. And that the settlers are totally out of control. They've been armed by the Israeli police and government, and they are killing off Palestinians because they're allowed to. And the question has to come, because, the West Bank is not Hamas. right? There's if there's any Hamas population there, it's very small. And yet and still, there is total disregard for Palestinian life. And you can't call Hamas and terrorism as the excuse because it's in the West Bank. So it was an interesting conversation. But if you go, I pulled the trick of downloading the interview. So there's a link to the Google interview, so you can hear what they actually say about what's happening in the West Bank and how it's all connected. And the reason that the media is not talking about what's happening in the West Bank is because if they discuss what's happening in the West Bank, you have to admit that this violence has nothing to do with Hamas. And it points out that this is clear colonial settlers, just complete violence and disregard of life.
All right. I think I got the audio queued up to where you want it. And then I just was caught by this paragraph here. What does settler violence refer to? Settler violence is a catch-all phrase for the various ways in which Israeli citizens living in the occupied West Bank terrorize and harm Palestinians. Such acts range from trespassing, blocking roads or access to land and water sources, to setting cars, homes, or other property on fire, stealing livestock, burning or cutting down olive trees, throwing stones, and vandalizing churches and mosques, as well as various forms of physical and verbal harassment and intimidation. In several cases, settlers have used live fire to kill and injure Palestinians. So, but by all means, let's talk more about what Hamas is said to be doing.
Right.
Yeah. So you are you ready for me to run this?
Is that the?
Yeah. You said 18. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
Many are stuck in places like Nablus, Jericho, where they should be in Ramallah. We're seeing an uptick in Israeli search and arrest operations, which for the last 2 years since the last aggression on Gaza in May 2021, that actually led to the formation of a lot of these armed groups that Israel has been claiming has been a huge threat to its security, or the latest threat to its security. We're seeing those groups now revived. For the last 3 months, the PA with Israeli and international support had managed to clamp down on a lot of these resistance fighters. And now we're seeing Israel basically re-spark or relight that entire phenomenon all by itself, just through these mass arrest campaigns, these very arbitrary mass arrest campaigns that are arresting everyone. And you're not just talking about Hamas. Hamas and Islamic Jihad are in the minority in the West Bank. The majority of people they are arresting are actually apolitical, young men, old men. Many of them are Fatah affiliated. And this isn't really doing nothing for the PA, which has undergone the worst economic and political crisis in its respective history at the moment. The PA has basically been marginalized. We haven't seen much action from the PA. We've seen Mahmoud Abbas come out and condemn Hamas, which has done nothing for the PA's popularity, given the Israeli onslaught in Gaza. We've seen Mahmoud Abbas come out and call for a ceasefire, pleading with an international community that has effectively greenlit what we're seeing happen in Gaza and is continuing to greenlight what we're seeing unfold in the West Bank, which, as you mentioned, settler violence. Settler violence has been on the rise. We're seeing settlers, we've seen the government issue them 14,000 additional arms on top of what they already have. Many of these settlers are now joining the reservists who are manning a lot of the checkpoints and a lot of the security zones in the West Bank. These settlers are known to be ideologically radical, repeat offenders of settler violence against Palestinians. It's made quite literally nowhere in the West Bank safe at the moment. We're seeing constant incursions, even into places like the heart of Ramallah. Just 2 days ago, we saw the execution of a young man in front of the presidential compound. Why? Because he dared to look at soldiers when he was seeking shelter in a shop nearby. He was just looking out the window and they shot him at point blank. And again, the Israeli security forces and settlers are getting away with complete impunity in this. Not just because the whole world's focus is on Gaza, but this has been something that aid workers on the ground, human rights organizations on the ground have been complaining about, especially for the last 2 years, that you can see something like up to 184 settler attacks in a day prior to the 7th of October, in one day, in a single day, 14 hours. And not a single one of these settlers, either by the Israeli police or army, have been even investigated, let alone prosecuted. And now we're just seeing, a lot of those trends now accelerate.
That was Tahani Mustafa of the International Crisis Group. Professor Prosak, do you want to add to that?
No, I think Tahani said very, very well. Exactly, that people, what's happening in the West Bank is just as alarming, because, as she said, it's an indoor prison, and people are cut from one another. And also, let's not forget that since the 7th of October, although there is no Hamas in the West Bank, 146 Palestinians have been killed so far, and 2,000 people have been 1,600 people have been arrested and around 2,500 injured. So the settler violence is relentless. Israeli incursions into various towns. They were in Hebron yesterday, in Nablus, in Tulkarem, destroying houses. And particularly alarming and scary is the settler violence, as also they've been distributing leaflets on telling Palestinians to leave the West Bank, otherwise they will witness another bigger Nakba. So they are emboldened, they are unrestrained, it's not being seen, and it's just, I think also this is what the Arab states are concerned, because the West Bank can explode in ways that can be as devastating as what's happening in Gaza.
Message.
It's like, I gotta find it. Where is it?
I mean, it's yeah. It's
that was strong.
It's a lot. So, and I actually reached out to that organization to see if we could get her on. So we'll see if somebody answers me, because
that'd be great.
That would be a good conversation, I think.
But at the same time, with all due respect, I mean, if not, I'm happy to have just the clips even.
I mean, that's why I did it. I mean, it's a lot of there's just so much information happening out there that no one is talking about. I saw somebody in the chat say it's too bad Sudan's not getting this coverage. Too bad they didn't watch last week when we did a whole interview on Sudan. So okay, but there's a lot happening. What's going on in Syria right now. I actually have access to someone who is currently in Syria, so I'm going to see if I can get a hold of him. But in the end, people have to start understanding that it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah, I don't know what the commenter was meaning, but in general, I mean, as a platform, obviously, we're going to. I think we've done very well reminding everyone of what's happening throughout the diaspora and other parts of the world. And to the extent we're focused on Palestine, it's because this is it is, I think, a particular moment.
Right.
That is where it's colonialism in high speed per se, as opposed to slower versions of it happening elsewhere. Not to falsely juxtapose that to whatever anyone else is, but it just but I was thinking if the comment would have been referencing beyond our platform, just in general, the coverage,
right.
I saw it brought up and it kind of pissed me off because somebody I like to watch in a very different context started commenting on this, and I had to turn it off. But this was in my atheist debate spaces. And obviously part of it is because in religious communities, this part of the world that part of the world is very important for a variety of reasons in various groups. So that alone has this getting attention, that never mind the just general anti-blackness, anti-Africanness that the world feels, and the sort of disinterest in Africa that the world is encouraged to feel. Right. But then the fast pace of this version and the juxtaposition of the most well-funded high-tech colonist against the least funded, least supported, even within the Arab world community, and the fast pace of it. I mean, it's just
and the reaction to what is happening here as it relates to people's reactions to what's happening there, right? Like there is an entire campaign happening to shut down anyone who has the audacity to say, like, why are we killing off the Palestinians? Like, what is going on right now? And so I actually started to watch Black Myths from yesterday because they had two students on, one from, I think, Cornell and one from Columbia, talking about what the reaction has been to students who were trying to speak up. And, you know, they shut down the Columbia School of Social Work because they're trying to get someone to say something. And I think I think that also needs to be part of the conversation, because in the end, again, right, you can't have people speaking up against the empire, right? You can't have people speaking up against colonialism and imperialism. You can't have people speaking up against the occupiers, right? Because it's okay to occupy the land if you're a Zionist, but it's not okay to occupy the land if you're part of a government that the U.S. don't like, right? If the U.S. considers you a threat to their economy. So, there's a huge conversation happening around that, which truly does engage, even the fact that, like, you can't be Black and speaking up about oppression. Like, how dare you? Like, you have the audacity to speak up about oppression as a Black person. What's wrong with you? And so these conversations have to happen, because it all rolls back into, again, what I said before about, imperialism. Like, it's death by imperialism. And if we're not all going to be fighting this battle to prevent that, then what are we doing? Like, what's going on here?
I mean, I hadn't really been thinking of it this way, which doesn't make much sense either. But I don't know to what extent this is effective as a convincing tool or mechanism for convincing the unconvinced. But the state has historically worked vehemently, vigorously to stop Black people in this country from thinking outside of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
This is what got Dr. King in trouble with the people that now still claim him, from Andy Young to Jesse and all of them. They didn't, everybody was like, stop talking about Vietnam, stop talking about Africa, Latin America. It even got Malcolm in trouble a little bit with the nation, and even before his break, his wanting to, make these connections. And then even in that Guardian article I keep talking about from a couple of years ago, where they said we're acknowledging the British state worked to stop Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture from spreading his version of Pan-Africanism, specifically because it was internationalist, Pan-Africanist, and socialist. So just on GP, like, again, anecdotally, I don't have, like, I'm not buddy with Palestinians and Arabs or Jews, Gentiles, Christians, anybody really for that matter. But so, like, it's not personal. It's just like, I don't have, like, and with all due respect, I don't have anybody suffering the bombing over there. I don't know anybody. I have no immediate But I'm just, so even if I don't get to the principle or a certain level of principle or philosophy or a concern for humanity, just on GP of you don't want me to be in solidarity with them. Oh, so I'm in solidarity with them. Stop it.
Right.
Just stop it. So even, I mean, on this, just the most base petty level, it's like, stop it.
Right. And so funny enough, this brings us, I guess not funny enough, but another line regarding what's going on here with regard to Palestine. The censoring of Rashida Tlaib, who, again, I am not,
come on.
Look, I don't live in her district. I didn't vote for her. I'm not one to be screaming up and down about the squad in any way, shape, or form. But I did find it interesting that a bunch of Democrats jumped up to make sure that they signed on to censor her.
Wait a minute. Did you see so when's the last time you checked that link?
Oh.
Because look at what shows up when I put this in here. Suspended account. Did somebody get in trouble for something?
Oh. Huh.
Because even the link in the spreadsheet is sort of deaded. But when you copy and paste it, it's so.
Okay, so.
Yeah, help us out here a little bit.
So that person had shared, and the spreadsheet that they shared, luckily, I hope that spreadsheet still works. So they've been researching how much money people are getting.
Okay, right. The spreadsheet works. Okay.
So
I'm sorry. They're getting the money from where?
From AIPAC. Is it AIPAC? Is that the?
Oh, the American Israel Political Action Committee.
Yes.
And
so I guess they got suspended, but they probably got suspended because they were posting how much hundreds of thousands of dollars people who were Democrats who voted to censor her got from AIPAC. And one of them, Richie Torres, was up over like $500,000. And it wasn't all.
Now break down real quick who Richie Torres is for those who may not be aware.
He is one of the Congress people out of New York who he kept popping up, with his support of Israel and all these things. And
but historically, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to like he's good for, like, to me, he reminds me of like the Latino version of I don't know who, like, to be perfectly honest, the first thought I have, and it's not fair to either one of them, the first thought I have is somebody like Roland Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who, when it comes to defending the cultural blackness or cultural brownness of an issue, he can pop up and give you that. He'll give you that good. Where is he from? Whatever borough he is, he'll give you that good Puerto Rican vibe or whatever. You know what I mean? He'll give you that. Like Roland will give you that.
Right.
He'll give
until
you
you find out he's taking money from Coca-Cola.
Right. And then you find out he's right. And then you look at him and just find out it's like, what? But yeah,
right.
so
right.
I just wanted to I don't pretend to know much about him, but that's the vibe I've always gotten when I see him pop up in certain.
So people were calling him out because he was really on this, I mean, as many of them were, he was really on this Israel thing. And so when it came out that they voted to censor her and that 22 Democrats agreed to censor her, somebody went through the list of the 22 Democrats to find out how much money they had gotten from AIPAC. And it was an interesting list. And I'm sorry to see that his account was suspended because, and I'm also glad that I downloaded this spreadsheet before he got suspended.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have had it. If I had relied on it being in the tweet, we would have lost it. So, but he sent that. But it's also important for people to understand who is really paying the people that are supposed to be taking care of them, right? Because that's who they're listening to. right? And so and it's broken down. You see, those are the House. They have the Senate, the House Democrats. I mean, there's tabs on the bottom. I don't know who put this spreadsheet together.
Oh, wow. I'm not even paying attention. Okay, so this is just the Republicans.
Those are just the House Republicans.
Okay, so then here are the Senate Republicans. There's Ted Cruz, but we need to be over here. Let's see, because we already know we don't even care about the.
Yep.
There's the Torres one. 520,000. God. Renee, tell the truth.
I'm just saying. Look,
tell the truth. If AIPAC said, Renee, I'm going to pay off all your houses.
Oh, nah.
Debts.
Nah.
500 grand. What would that do for the Ball household?
Listen, I know it would do a
I think we'd be good.
lot for John. Oh, what?
I think we'd be fully
I'm like
good.
bated breath. I just got the notice that I'm over the 120 payments that I need for my PSL. my loan forgiveness. I'm fired up. I'm just waiting. But there is no amount of money that people could pay me to sell out my people.
Where's everybody in the chat? I'm telling you, you got to have the thought experiment. Don't you know what your line is? Don't you know what your line is? Manny, tell the truth. Not 500? 500?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't.
You got to think about it. What would you do with 500,000? And all you got to do is say, Hamas is wrong. Israel has a right to defend itself.
Yeah,
Yo.
Nah.
Look at Gregory Meeks. Come on, Greg. Come on, CBC, Greg. 140? That's it? Yep. Somebody send Greg Meeks' office this spreadsheet. Look at another Jared. Another, God damn it. Who is Jared Golden?
Find the actual list. Hold on.
Me and Jared Ware, man, we like the last good Jareds out here. They have just destroyed that name. Who's Jimmy Panetta?
Oh, I didn't even know who some of those people were, but I remember somebody was like, I bet it's a bunch of people from the South. And the majority
look at Clyburn. Come on, Clyburn. Not 89,000. That's it.
That's it.
That's what I'm saying. We just dropped down from 500. I mean, at 500,000, for me, it's going to roll over at least one time. What would I do for 500? But 89,000, come on, Jimmy. That's shameful. These CBC votes.
The list of the 22.
My bad. I'm too busy looking. I'm too busy being petty. Like, you're not selling out for it. Like, they selling out for nothing.
Wow. So that's the list. Those are the.
By the way, I love your.
How great is that?
This right here, yeah, that was dope. I meant to shout you out for that when I saw it earlier. That's very dope. Do they have one for Starbucks?
You know, I don't know if they do. I found that somebody just shared that. I'm on all these DM chats and and I was like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah, that is dope. All right, I'm sorry. So
that's just the list. If anybody's curious, that's the list. That's the list of all the. That's
two Jareds. What? I'm about to. I really need to change my name for real. Richie. Well, we know. I mean, Wasserman. We knew that. I mean, she's Clinton.
Yeah, but
so we knew that one, but.
But
you had the numbers. I mean, seriously though, it's almost embarrassing.
That thing to me, they were like, check the spreadsheet out. And I opened that bad boy up and I was like, going on the Saturday run sheet. It's time.
I'm half embarrassed that Clyburn would have the nerve to sell out for the pittance. How are you going to sell out for such a 89,000? That's the most. I think that's the worst part. That's the most embarrassing. No, I'm just playing. Let me stop.
It's awful.
Yeah, all of it is awful, and AIPAC got a lot of money.
Oh, they sure do. They sure do. I can't do it. Hold on. Can you? Somebody asked if you can put the spreadsheet in the chat, and it's not my spreadsheet, and he posted it on the internet, so I assume it's it's open for people to download at their leisure.
I'll put the link in the chat. Yeah.
To the links in the chat, people. So yeah. So part of what that's what the US sends to Israel every year.
Oh, that's it? I thought it was more than that. Okay.
Yeah. That was I think there was something they put in place, and that was the amount.
But that's just direct aid though, right?
Is it direct or is it military aid and weapons and is it a combination? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I thought that for some reason I thought the number was more, and I thought because if you start to include,
you just muted yourself.
if you include all the agreements like purchase agreements to buy Israeli tech and whatever, I feel like, but I'm far from sure. So
yeah, I'm not, and that's a rabbit hole. I'm not. I've
the official amount, right. Oh, it's military aid alone. Yeah. Okay. Or maybe either way,
will we ever really know? Like,
I mean, that's the.
So what I thought also was interesting about this issue with Tlaib was a week before this vote happened, there was supposed to be a vote about Tlaib and about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and see how people don't. Listen, look, my rabbit holes. So it turns out that they were both going to be up for censure. They were going to vote. There was going to be this whole thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene had submitted the initial documents to censor Tlaib. And then another Democrat was like, well, we'll censor Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's racist and she always be saying these wild things and da-da-da-da. So that vote was supposed to happen. And there were 33 Republicans who said that they would not align to vote against Rashida Tlaib. And so it wasn't going to happen, right? And when that happened, the Democrats agreed to pull the resolution about Marjorie Taylor Greene because the Republicans weren't going to be on board with voting against Tlaib. So that was a week before she got censored. So all of a sudden, the wildness again of what happens within our government, where you can have someone who is such a blatant racist, right? Who says some of the wildest, wild. But they're able to negotiate to get her off the block, right? They can get her off the censorship. We're gonna leave her alone, and then a week later they turned around, and y'all fools went along with it to censor Tlaib, the only Palestinian American who's in it's wild. It's wild.
And
yes, and correct. So,
well, right on time, the just right on cue, this very small group that is somewhat persistent are just now calling and texting me about me running for Congress. They have this fantasy, and they have the Ajamu Baraka version of a he had a very, I thought, convincing argument around how Cornel West could have actually gotten into the White House, like the particular timing, this, that, and the third. I thought it was at least I thought it was they have a version of that for me in Howard County. and I think it's hilarious. So I'm gonna get on this call though. I'm gonna get on this call.
I'm gonna hear him out, and then I'm gonna
hear him out.
I
want to hear it. I told him. I said I already told him. I don't have permission. I can't, and I don't see it. But I often don't. But I'm gonna get on the call. I'm gonna get on the call. Because part of me is it is ingrained from childhood. Part of it is like I just want to be able to. I would love to be able to be like be in the room and be like, you really gonna censor? You could like, nah, like, and all she said was river to the sea. Wait till it's my turn on the mic. You talk about you gonna censor?
Like, I would love for somebody to go up there and just.
Because I remember when Cynthia McKinney was in there, like, that joint was fun watching from the sidelines, and the way she used that space at the time. I thought, I mean, I was just in the, in the community, in the world, but seeing the way. But then I also learned what she had to put up with on the other side too, and I'm not.
Right. There's a lot of that, and that and that's part of that. Really is part of the problem when you look at this battle of trying, like, we're going to run for office and we're going to try and change the thing, and we're going to do the thing, and what you have to endure to even get through the process of running, right? And then your whole life is out there. People are sending crazy stuff to you. Like, you become a target for all kinds of madness.
And sitting outside your house.
Right.
Like what they did to Cynthia in
he unmuted himself.
It's crazy. I know where Cynthia is now, and I know she and I do not agree on almost anything at this point, with all due respect. But at the same time, with all due respect, I know very well what she went through as a congresswoman in Georgia, and even with the Green Party. And I wouldn't wish that on most people. I wouldn't say anybody, but definitely not her. But I wouldn't, it's so the idea, because they don't just mess with you.
Yeah, they mess with your whole family. Everybody who's in any kind of it's a lot. It's a lot to ask. If we lived in a different place where being a part of the system was actually like gonna do something, right? And people expected people who were really about people to join the system, and it was a welcomed thing. Like, but that's not where we live. That's not where we're at all. And it's gonna take more than a few people going in there and really just being like, boom, here's what's about to happen. Right? Like, I wonder sometimes, like, if you run and you run on the state party line and you run as if you're going to do the thing that they tell you to do, and you're going to go along, and then you get there and you just flip the script completely, how long would you last? Like, how long would they let you create
one interview,
kind of chaos?
One news cycle.
And then they just remove you, you think?
Or destroy your I mean, it doesn't take long. I mean, it seems to not take long at all.
Well, it also depends, right? Because George Santos is fine.
Well,
right?
I mean, it always depends, right? It always, on some level, depends who you are and what is the cause of the downfall. But you're right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. The argument that's being presented to me is this, that this would be the moment for sort of, again, and probably not appropriate to use this language, but an insurgent campaign that has a radical argument around the economy and foreign policy. And so the argument here wouldn't be any Jared's going to try to flip a script. It's this is the way you get in, and then this would be. But I mean, just so many questions in terms of the overall value to it. Mine is very, admittedly, childish. I just would, because I kind of just would want to be there to look at somebody's face and be like, nah, like in the case of this immediate story, she's right. And Rashida's, like, with all due respect to her, she's like the bare minimum right on this issue. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, this is, so if you have an issue with what she's saying, my goodness, we all about to get some censures up in this motherfucker.
Right.
It's like
it's wild.
It's gonna be censured, you know. Anyway, it's so.
Yeah, I got nothing. Yeah. It's just, but yeah. So while we're on politics, and we can make this the last thing, because somebody did share that Tennessee legislation, but I think I want to do a little more digging about public schools and funding and what's happening in Tennessee with this. But so I'm gonna leave that on there. We can circle back to it next week. But Dr. Stein. Dr. Stein.
Okay, I missed this entire thing, so I'm very interested here. So what's oh wow. Oh wow. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Jill Stein announced today, so this is 2 days ago, that she is seeking the Green Party nomination for the President of the United States. Harvard, doctor, back again. Is she running with anybody? Do I really need to read the whole thing?
No, like you remember?
I'm sorry, is there like a?
No, this.
Wow.
So you remember I texted you a while ago, and I was like, it's unconfirmed, but here's the rumor that she's gonna run again, and I just look, and not for nothing. Like I've met Dr. Stein a couple of times. I think she's very smart. I do think, you know, maybe the first couple of times she ran, you know, she was, you know, on the right, maybe in the right place. I just, for the life of me, cannot understand like how this became like the next best step, right? So when she posted this, Mani tagged me on her answer, and I was like, oh, she really is doing it. And I don't know if I can get like, I don't know that I can get excited about this, to be honest. Like, I feel like it's the same problem that I've been expressing over and over again, which is now this is going to be the thing. Now we're going to be rushing to raise money and do the thing for Dr. Stein to run. And I don't know why we're not putting, as a party, why the Green Party is not putting its energy into building up the state parties, into building up the caucuses, into doing that work and letting people, you know, focus more on those local races where maybe they can get more people, you know, on a federal level. Like there's Christina Khalil is running in New Jersey to unseat Menendez, and she's Green Party, and I feel like her heart's in the right place, and like, you know, there's some work that can be done, you know, in the state. And this is her third run, isn't it? Is her third run at president?
I believe it's yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So,
but if I'm not mistaken, she also got I think they got the highest amount of votes for a Green Party presidential
when
campaign,
she ran in 2016, they got on the ballot in, I think it was like 41 states, and it allowed some of the states to gain their ballot access. The problem is a bunch of states lost their ballot access in the following election cycle. And so I just have such a hard time with this presidential run when you don't have a solidified group of working people on the ground. Like I don't think the Green Party has made enough effort to do that across the board in order for something like this to work. And it's the reason that it consistently does not work. And so I don't know. And they do have to do a primary because there are multiple candidates. So that part's going to have to happen. But I don't know. Jenna asked that Greens have to hold a presidential line on the ballot for some reason. How to do it down ballot? No, you don't have to have a presidential line. It does depend on the state. If you have ballot access, then you get a line because you have ballot access. In New Jersey specifically, and I obviously only know this because that's where I live, if you have enough people running under the Green Party, even though there isn't ballot access, they will put everyone in the same column so that you can vote down column. But that's in the state of New Jersey. I don't know how that works in multiple places. So, it's I just can't get excited about it. And
No, it's hard to get excited, especially the way it's happened.
Right.
If it had been a clear build from a previous campaign, I know there are many reasons why this is not a good idea, or I've been told it's not a good idea. But I used to try to argue that the Green Party should be amending to the extent possible the schedule. If you're gonna have a primary, have it like a year or so ago, and make people commit to signing on now and running a campaign that if they get the nomination and get the support of the party, they would commit to carrying through and beyond just a last minute thing. Because an alternative party is going to need more time. You're not going to be able to parachute in and do I would think the kind of work that would need to be done to make the kind of dent in this that these parties would be hoping to make at this late stage, especially coming in after the whole Cornel West thing. I don't know, but then again, I just don't know. So,
right.
But
it's just I don't know. I'm really having a hard time with it. And I'll be honest, I'm so very impressed with Claudia. And and all the things that she has had, really, like, she just speaks truth. And I feel like that's the type of strength that I want to support, right? But what I think, and it goes back to that spreadsheet, with how do you get an independent candidate on, right? Like, it's so hard. There is so much work to it, right? My new rabbit hole with the electoral politics is how many people don't vote and are unaffiliated in each state. And why is everybody so busy going after voters who are affiliated versus going after unaffiliated non-voters, right? Because you have a bigger pool.
But what I was always told by the seasoned vets was that is a fantasy that everyone has always lost elections going after, is the way it was. That it's
who has ever done that you know of? Who is ever
that really I know of? I don't know. I'm just telling you what it was always the argument, because I would raise the same thing. I kept saying, why is the Green Party attempting to compete at all for registered voters? and not addressing themselves. And the argument was always a version of those who are not going to vote are not going to vote.
And people don't vote because no one's talking to them.
That is, of course, the argument. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to defend the
point.
I
know that.
Because my logic is, I'm with you on that. That's what they seem to have a ready-made response that includes that. That's all I'm saying. That's their answer. And
and I think that's because, it's the same conundrum that I keep circling back to, which is they don't want people to vote. They don't want people to get invested in the process, because I started to look it up. In Maryland, almost 2.4 million people did not vote in 2022. 2.4 million. Of the 2.4 million, 850,000 are unaffiliated. They're able to vote, but they're not. They're registered. They're not registered with the party, right? So if you have 850,000 who are unaffiliated, and you have 2.4 million who didn't vote, that is a huge pile of people, right? That you can go talk to and get your 10,000 signatures from. That's not a small number of people, right? We ain't talking about, it's just not. And so, to me, I think part of the problem is that the system works against a multi-party system. They work against giving people a choice. They work against people being invested in the process. And then people don't get invested in the process. And then they're stuck with the people who get put in charge, because the people who are invested in voting and who choose to vote don't care about the people who aren't voting. They react to them the way Dr. Carr reacts to them, even though he fundamentally understands the problem with the system.
Did you see his last response? And I just want to say very quickly, I know we don't have a lot. Because it does pain me. I'm not gonna lie. You have to understand the reverence that I've had for this man and for the amount of time. I mean, we're talking about decades. I know the breadth of his intellect. You can go to iMixWhatILike.org and just put his name in there. His quote introduces my first book.
Mm-hmm.
Like like people who get mad at me for bringing it, like, you can't argue that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
We used to struggle to get him on our show in PFW. At one point, he was reluctant. So to see him say, well, Malcolm wanted to be a lawyer as a kid, so if people don't understand what I'm really trying to say, because I'm like, are you serious? Well, who gives a damn what Malcolm wanted to be when he was a kid? Who really cares? I mean, no disrespect. What was he doing when he was adult and had a fully fledged analysis?
Right.
Why is that not the starting point? Why are we talking about what he wanted to be as a kid? Oh man, it was so annoying. It's so condescending and disrespectful.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Watch that interview, that debate was, because I think it's almost harder for me to listen to Black people who understand the problem, but then still will give you the excuse for why you shouldn't be focused on that problem. You have focus on this other problem, right? Who missed like the broader stroke of it all. I can't do it. But we at 12:48.
I know.
You need to stretch.
I need to stretch because I can't go to warrior class without stretching.
And
all I'm trying to do, Renee, is straight in all seriousness, just watching as we get to the age, or as I mean, not you, but we, as in my
we
generation.
Closer in age than you.
I don't speculate.
I'm creeping up on 50.
I don't speculate. And I'm not allowed to reveal my wife's age. So I'm just, in general, I don't. but the just watching the transition of our parents,
Right.
and I don't mean the final transition, knock on wood, but that elderhood and the struggles. I'm just trying to make this next phase be just trying to stay out the hospital as long as possible. So if a couple stretches, drink some more water. I mean, because it's crazy. It's crazy. But once again, thank you very much for a great Saturday morning and early afternoon. Please, everyone, do like, share, subscribe, support the Patreon, and come on back in a few minutes to the platform for Warrior Class and everything else that's going to come up this weekend and beyond.
There you go.
Anything else? Did you have any last? Are we good? Was that it?
No, but wait.
No, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, yo.
Look.
Yo.
Look.
Yo.
So
Congratulations.
I need other people to read. I need people to call. I might have to start calling you because I'm like I just read the introduction and I'm like, I don't know if I can read this by myself.
It's outrageous how good it is, and I'm just I can't even make my joke about being pleasantly jealous or whatever. I could never have produced that, so I can reveal. I can relax. You know what I'm saying? Like I could have never been Jordan, so I don't have to worry about my basketball fantasies. You know what I mean? I don't have to. I could have never done that in any context, and good. And we don't need me to have done so I'm like, what he did with that, it's a whole new standard. And I mean it when I say it's a generational text. I think he let me show you what he really did. You know what he did?
I knew you was going to do that. Mark Dub, I am down with a group read. I Jordan in New York. I've been trying to see if I can talk him into it. Let's try and figure something out. We do need a reading group. I'm going to be a hot mess trying to read this. I need somebody that I can run stuff off of. Like, did you read this? What'd you think of this?
We
part?
all do.
I'm going to need that.
And I got to read it many more times. I'm just going to keep assigning it in all my classes just to have a continued excuse to come back to it. And and then we got to bring him back around. Like I just got to get, my questions in order.
There you go.
It's just crazy how good that book is and spooky and scary. So on that happy note, definitely a good reason to get ready for Warrior Class because we damn sure need one. And Burton if you ever had any doubts. Okay, so all right, Renee, thanks again. This has been great. I look forward to next week. Peace, everybody. If you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say, and we'll catch you next time here on Saturdays with Renee. Saturday. Woo.